Okay guys, I'm going to work on removing the ABS module today. Got the intake manifold, the top of the intake off because I just tuned up the vehicle. Just removed the battery box. It's got three 10mm bolts, pops right out. I'm going to set this right here for now, but this air box has got an 8mm right down here, and it's got two rubber grommets where it's kind of seated in the vehicle, but it's got two more 8mm here up front where the air horn, I guess, takes in cool air. So I'm going to take these off and the box should come out. You might not necessarily have to take the air box out, but I'm going to move it out just so that I can have more clearance to get to the ABS module. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. It'll take time to make sure you clean these parts out before, but you can see here where the horn itself is kind of recessed here. So it wasn't gonna come out. Matter of fact, yeah, it's popped in there with plastic stops. So gotta make sure you take these two front, you can see what it looks like there. Got two front 8mm bolts. All the three on the air box. Matter of fact, now that I look, this is the other one that I took off. Don't need to come off after all. And you can see there, it's just got the rubber plugs where it sits in a bracket down there. All right. So now I got the air box, the battery tray out of the way. Move this. This is the evap line. Move that out of the way. You can see right there. There's the module. It's got what, 2, 4, 6 lines. What I'm going to do, I'm going to disconnect them, and it's right back there. I'm going to disconnect them. I'm going to put the rubber gloves around the with some zip ties around to keep the brake line free of any debris and keep the brake fluid from dripping all over the place. But you can see these lines are hard, but they loop around and then they go to this flexible connectors. So shouldn't have a problem being able to get those out of the way. As far as, that's real good. As far as the other lines, looks like they're long enough and thin enough to where I should be able to move it out of the way. But the, let's see. Looks like there's two bolts down there. 13 looks like, and that, oh yeah, there's a harness. There's a harness for the electronic module right there for the electronic control. So anyway, I'm gonna start attacking this bracket. Probably get that battery support, this right here, probably get that out of the way, and should have some more clearance. So hopefully not going to run into too many problems, but if I do, I will stop and tell you what problem I ran into and how I overcame it. Yeah, just happened to me again. You can never have too much light here, guys. So I've got a hood light that's attached magnetically. Pretty neat. Harbor Freight. I picked up these LEDs at Home Depot, and I was like, where the hell is my handheld light? Forgot it's got a magnetic base. Anyway, the plan of attack is I'm gonna go ahead and try to get that battery support bracket off, and this part right there, and it's attached with 10mm bolts down there. Of course, you got that hard line in the way, so I don't know, this may be very elementary for more experienced mechanics, but for the newbies, I'm going to try and hit it with a 10mm and a 3-inch extension and come out through there with a ratchet and try to hit it. 10mm, we'll see if that works, and that will give me more clearance to attack what looks like, I don't know, 13s back there to get the bracket off for the ABS pump. Okay guys, always in an effort to help out my fellow shade tree mechanics, I started on that, got that bottom one loose already. I'm starting up on the top mounting bolt, and I'm going to give you a tool tip. All right guys, and this is not a tool tip on how to use a tool, it's a tool tip on how to get more tools. See, if you ever need an extensions that wobble, see how they're rounded off there? What that allows you to do, gives you a little bit of flex and play, see? So, if you ever come across a sale and your significant other is telling me, oh, you don't need that stuff, just say, honey, I need that 9-piece wobble extension set because it comes with a 1.5-inch extension. And while you're at it, you might as well pick up that flex head ratchet, see? Otherwise, you're not going to be able to properly save money by fixing your own vehicles. See, just a little tool tip there. Woo! Okay, it's getting interesting real quick here. All right, so you guys know the small fittings for the small lines that go in are 13. Okay, I'm using the flare end wrench. The small one is a 13. The large one is a 15. Okay, another curveball. That thing was a mother-loving pain in the butt to get out. Turns out, I'm going to try to hold this camera left-handed. Turns out, and the reason why I have it sitting here is because that's pretty much the way it comes out. You have to take off that the front line to the master cylinder. It don't matter because I'm going to bleed the whole system out anyway. And yeah, it spilled a lot of brake fluid. But put, you know, as many rags or whatever you can to sop it all up. Anyway, it turns out, comes out just like this. And it turns out that those 3 bolts are 1/2 inch, not 13. And this one was a mother pain in the butt to get to. But nevertheless, got it out. So this harness takes 2, it's got 2 tabs that you have to depress. And make sure I don't have any brake fluid on my... Okay, let's see. You can see here the side of the harness that goes in to the electronic module. See right here, this part swings up. See, like that. You have to pinch these 2 tabs right there. Those 2 tabs right there, you pinch those in, and then it's kind of like the locking tabs for the ECU. This part just slides right up, and the whole harness pops right off. Anyway, I definitely recommend a ton of extensions, different types of ratchets. You get some that have got swivel heads on them. You know, I've got one that where the head tilts sideways and you can lock it that way. I had to lock it about 1 o'clock position right there for that 3rd bolt down on the bottom. That was a pain in the butt, folks. But nevertheless, it's out. So now let's start putting it back together. Swap the new module that I've got over here, and for the edge, and here's the brake line that I have to take off in front of the master cylinder. There's the part number. There's an updated part number. I believe the first part number started with Bravo Tango 4 Zulu. The updated part number for the pump is, or for the valves, is Delta Tango 4 Zulu. there. And it should fit the 2013 Edge as well. This is a 2013 Lincoln MKX. Okay guys, getting ready to take the electronic module off of the valve control assembly. And I was about to once again start singing praises to everybody's favorite discount tool store. I was gonna pull out my trusty little Torx kit, which would have fit perfectly. However, it's a 20, by the way, it's a number 20 Torx. However, as you can see there, this is not a Torx wrench, and all the other ones are. So I don't know what happened there. So Harbor Freight did me wrong. Nevertheless, whipped out the Christmas special Milwaukee bit set, and I did happen to have another 20 Torx bit. Worked perfectly. So these little things, they are 20s Torx. Once you take these four off, you just wiggle the electronic module a little bit and it pops right off. Another thing I want to mention, for those of you newbies out there who are, attempting to, you got a lot of harnesses and a lot of vacuum lines and sensor harnesses running all over the place. What I've done before and what I've done here is take a picture with your phone. Just take a snapshot so you can get a layout. What I did, I took a couple of pictures of all the brake lines coming into the ABS valves. So that because I had to move some of them out of the way, I had to loosen them up, I had to take a line off of the master cylinder. So take a picture, and that works with wiring harnesses. It works, anything with you're dealing with a lot of different parts and modules and wire harnesses and different lines and stuff like that in an engine compartment or under the dash or whatever. Take a picture of it. So now it's just a matter of loosening up 2 bolts here on the bracket, and it should come right off. These look like they are going to be 40. These are 30s, 30 Torx to take the valve assembly off of the bracket. All right, so you got to make sure you have a 20, that you have a 30, multiple 20s, contingencies. And let's see, once again, these were 1/2 inch, which was a pain in the butt. The mounting bolts for the bracket supporting the ABS control was a 1/2 inch. So 99.9%, I believe, of all fasteners in American vehicles now are metric. So I had to close up the garage, drive home, and come back with my standard American English sockets. So again, contingencies. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and dismount. I'm gonna go ahead and take off the valve assembly, put the new one on the bracket, got the new one right here, and start putting this thing back together. See how it goes. That is the lower mounting bolt for the ABS bracket. It's in there, folks. We've got the 2 bolts on the front side right there. But one thing I wanted to mention is that it might be a good idea. I have the intake manifold, the top half of the intake manifold off, because I gave the car a tune-up and changed out the plugs. And you know what? It just occurred to me, this is the setup that I've got. Now, if anybody out there's got a better idea, please let me know. And no, I could not reach straight in there and get all the way down there, because those bolt heads are real low profile. So you can see that those half inch bolts, man, they're low profile. So any bit of you get it just slightly off square, and the ratchet just comes right off. The socket just comes off. Anyway, I've got extensions coming all the way back here. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and hit it with the electric ratchet. That's how I finally ended up getting it off. But I sat here for a while with a hand ratchet. But I've just got some long extensions. By the way, those wobble extensions do not work with universal joints. I mean, they work, but they're just a pain in the butt. Anyway, that's the way I finally got it down there. I already reattached the harness. As you can see there, it's got the locking tabs are already clicked back down. Those two tabs right there. And once you get it set, you just slowly, lower the cover, and it pulls itself, it draws itself into the terminal block for the electronic control module. All right, so anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. Anybody who runs into ABS problems, yeah, I would definitely recommend taking off the top of the intake manifold and go from there. Anyway, I'm gonna keep going, get this thing buttoned up, reattach all the lines, and start filling everything with brake fluid, start bleeding. Okay guys, another quick tip. Man, aside from definitely getting some kind of matting or something, these are just gym mats that I bought also at your local discount Harbor Freight. And of course, these are the things you're gonna run into. Of course, I'm telling you, I'm not sure if the Liberty has this plastic part here to hold in the hood mount, but this thing here is not flexible at all, man. It is not. I mean, it literally was cutting the damn gym matting that I put here to lean over, so got a rag there. Anyway, the purpose of this quick tip, you don't want to get any contaminants in the valve body when you're putting it on there, when you're reattaching your hoses. So what I did, you can see this little label here. This little label here is actually, I already peeled it off, but what I did is that I peeled off one little part of it, and then I got the rear line in there, and I peeled the next part off right as I was ready to put the front line in there. And I did the same, back out there, I did the same thing for this label. This label went across all four ports to keep contaminants out. So what I did, I peeled it, got the rear one in there, then the next one, and the next one, and all that's left now is the line that I took off of the master cylinder. So just a tip. Another thing that I did not do is I did not, bathe it in brake clean, because I didn't want it. Same thing. I don't want to get brake clean into the ports. So what I did is, when I got brake fluid dripping down and whatnot, I sprayed the brake clean on the paper towel, and then wiped down the excess brake fluid is running everywhere. So just a quick tip. I mean, you want to keep things as clean as possible. You don't want to get any contaminants in there. That's not a cheap part there. So just a quick note: when you get these, they will be covered. They will have adhesive tape covering up those ports. So just peel it off one by one as you're ready to put back in your lines. Take your time when you're getting those flare ends in there, those flare nuts. Take your time. Some of those lines may have bent just a little bit when you're moving it out of the way to try and get the valve body out. So take your time, start slow, go slow. If it binds up right away, back out, start over, jiggle it a little bit as you're turning it, jiggle, turn, jiggle, turn, jiggle, turn, till you get it going. So all right, almost there. Continuing with the reassembly. Got all the lines tightened up, everything cleaned up there bled out the brakes. Make sure when you're bleeding them, you take time to take a good look at all your connections. Make sure you're not getting any leaks anywhere. Everything should be nice and dry. Another quick tip here coming at the end, of course, something I forgot to mention. As you're getting all of these lines going off into the, or coming out of the ABS module, you might want to take some time and take the brake lines loose of the holders. See if I can get a better view in there. You can see those in there. What I did, I just took a large size screwdriver and twisted it sideways to loosen up the holder. So right now, as I'm reassembling everything, I'm going to go ahead and pop all those back in to make sure the brake line stays secure. But once you loosen up, when you're taking off the module, and you loosen up those flare fittings, it'll be a lot easier to move the lines out of the way. Another thing I did, by the way, is get a screwdriver in there, twist it sideways, and I used a pair of 90-degree pliers. As you can see, there's not a sharp edge there. You don't want to yank on them. You don't want to put something that's going to or use something that's going to put a kink in those lines. So be careful, but it's going to be a lot easier to move your lines around once you get them off that module if you loosen up the holders in the back there. Another tip, almost forgot, started putting back the intake manifold plenum, and almost forgot this bracket that holds the battery box, and it's gonna go in those two bolt holes. So definitely don't want to put the intake manifold on, because your throttle body is, it's all right here, and there's no way I'm going to be able to get my hands in there. So remember, put your the battery box support back. All right, that's where I'm trying to get. Gonna have to reach in there somehow around that line. Managed to get the first bolt on there. Another quick tip. It worked real well with the bracket for the ABS pump. Throw some WD-40 or some type of lubricant on your fasteners before you start putting them on. Okay, and again, there might be some other method that the pros have, or maybe if you do, drop it in the comments and let me know. But my plan is to reach in on this side with the short extension, put it on by hand. Now, how am I going to get the bolt to stay on the end? Well, here's another little tip for shade tree mechanics. Okay, guys, again, there might be better ways to do this. I'm sure they sell short, sockets that have got magnetic, holders on there. I've heard guys put a magnet on the end to magnetize the socket, but to get way down in there, that's not going to work for me. So what I learned a long time ago, somebody told me, was you take your fastener, your bolt, you put a little piece of paper over it. It's just a shop towel. Put it over the end of the bolt head, the fastener head, and that'll keep it on there, because I'm going to be way down in there, probably when it's all said and done, trying to get the bolt started with one finger, or maybe even like this, or like this. So the last thing you need is for this thing to fall off and get lost, which brings me to another tip. You will inevitably drop bolts and nuts and washers and any number of fasteners down here into the automotive abyss. and you know, I mean, way down in those crevices. Oh yeah, there's a good one right there. You see that gap right in there? That's where it's going to land. It's not going to fall all the way to the bottom, guys. If you happen to be lucky enough to where your dropped fasteners and wrenches and sockets always happen to fall out to the bottom, and you're luckier than I am. For those of us out there who have my luck, always have a magnetic pickup tool. I've got two different sizes here because, again, you're going to drop it in between a crevice that's, you know, too small for this, or too narrow for this 5-pounder to pick up. You know, so I got another little one. But there's another tool tip for us shade treers out there. If you're going to be working in tight little spaces like that, you know, maybe 1 out of 5 times your dropped item is going to fall all the way through to the bottom. Another note I wanted to point out is that the reason why I'm doing everything here from the top is because I don't have a lift, and this is not my vehicle, so I'm not going to take the time to find out where the jack points are and all that stuff. I got the lift points, but I'm not just going to leave it there on a floor jack and crawl under it. I'm out here by myself, so I'm just not going to take the chance. Accessing some of those nuts and stuff, woo, like that. There it is. Oh yeah, that was fun. Might be easier from the bottom, but for those of us who don't have lifts and do it from the top, you know, I'm trying to throw out little tips and tricks that I've learned over the years. Hopefully it might help somebody else. Anybody's got any better ideas, man, please let me know, because this has been a fun project for the weekend. All right, continuing. Just like that. Again, can't emphasize enough that you got to put some sort of a lubricant on your fasteners when you're in tight spaces like that, man. It just makes it infinitely easier. So anyway, don't you just love saving all this money by fixing your own vehicles? There you go. And it's still on there. And again, I forgot who even told me that many years ago, but it works like a charm. Something important before you attempt to replace an ABS control module, you need a scan tool that's going to be able to allow you to bleed the anti-lock brakes. Okay, I use the MaxiCheck by Autel. It'll read the codes, erase the codes, but this also allows you to test each individual system on the ABS. It allows you to check the vehicle speed. It allows you to check each individual wheel speed sensors, and it'll tell you if you got a problem with anything. And of course, it also lets you bleed out the ABS pump. Okay, so, guys, found out something else. Another tip: you have to bleed the ABS pump first, then you bleed the manually bleed all of the wheels. Doing it by myself, I saw a video that had some fluid in one of the lines. You leave it up high so that, you know, all the fluid stays down, and you pump it, and it looked like it worked in the video. The guy says it did, but you know, the more I thought about it, you know, you're just kind of, with the bleeder open, you're just moving fluid back and forth. Although, yeah, some air did come out. I actually got my father to come and help me out because I still could not get rid of that spongy pedal. So rebled the ABS pump, jacked it back up, did it one at a time, and it actually ended up being a lot faster that way. And sure enough, I mean, it worked like a charm. So just a note out there for the ABS pump replacement. Make sure you use a module or a scan tool that will allow you to bleed the ABS pump, and then shut the vehicle down and do each tire manually. as far as the tune-up goes, it was not that difficult at all. So once you get those 7 bolts off of the intake, the upper intake or the plenum, just make sure you remember where all your wires go. It was actually a piece of cake as far as tune-ups go on V6s. Some of the V6 front-wheel drives are pretty difficult. That one was actually pretty easy once you got that intake off. So hope everybody picked up a few tips. Maybe picked up some ideas. Feel free to leave your comments and let me know if you've got anything that I could have done better. Obviously, I know maybe getting at that mounting bracket from underneath might have been better if I had a lift, or if I would have had that vehicle raised up pretty significantly on jacks. It might have been easier. But aside from that, feel free to let me know if you think you saw me do anything wrong. Feel free to let me know. A couple of things for the beginners out there. Remember to plan for contingencies. Plan for contingencies, because you never know what you're going to run across. I'm going to show you right now all the tools that I bring and the equipment that I bring when I come here to my shop, because this is our workshop. You know, so I have a few things that I leave here. Just about everything I bring from home in my truck. So I had a buddy of mine ask me why it takes so long. I tell him when I'm finishing up on Sunday afternoons, why it takes so long for me to get out of here. And I tell him, yeah, I'm picking up everything right now. I'll see you in about 2.5 hours. He's like, man, what takes you so long? So I'm going to show you right now. If you did enjoy the video, I guess hit like. I don't think you can subscribe. I don't have a channel. Plan on putting up a couple of videos that I have in pieces still on my truck and on a 2005 Explorer Sport Truck, but I'll post those later. But feel free to leave comments. Let me know. Like I said, you know, I'm open to new ideas. Let me tell you, there's some times that I get in there and man, I wish there was a better way to do this. So feel free to let me know. Okay, and thanks a lot. I'm just going to show a real quick portion on what it is I'm packing up right now. Okay, watching the game actually takes up very little of my time. But I usually have one of my folding tables with my charger for my phones. I got a power strip up there, charger for my Milwaukee batteries, camera. But I bring the folding table I leave here, my compressor. I bring my own air. I've got the compressor here in the shop. I just leave it here. But I've got it in a corner because our air is at 150 psi, and I don't like running my air tools at that. And it's unregulated, so if you want just a short blast of air or something on an engine, forget it. 175 or 150 psi is just too much. But little table here stays here, but the box goes. I bring my Stanley Fat Max box, also just full of a bunch of stuff that you just never know what you're going to need. Got the pack out kit, that also more bulky items. Another, the top portion of the pack out, also a bunch of bits and stuff that I put in the little compartments. Another folding table stays here, but I bring my drill. I'll bring my electric bag just in case, because it's got my wire cutters, it's got a voltmeter, a couple voltmeters, sensor tester, wire strippers, things like that. Again, going back to being able to move and keep harnesses out of the way and vacuum lines and all the stuff while you're working. These actually I keep in my pickup behind the seat, because you never know when I'm going to strap something down in the bed. But wire ties, and then I got a couple of carriers that I bring up last minute things also that I'm there at the house and grab before I come to the shop. This I kind of leave with my little Milwaukee drill, and it's just some another just quick on the go, for smaller jobs. Light that's charging. The middle portion of the pack out also gloves and all that other junk. I got wrenches and a bunch of stuff also in here that I grabbed at the last second to bring down. The Husky cart usually stays here in the shop, and the funnels and stuff like that. It gets pretty dirty here, so it takes me a while to clean everything up and stuff, but this stuff I pretty much leave here. I threw all my fluids and stuff I usually keep on top of the Husky cart. My lights to go to the house, the jack stands are mine. But this is what I'm in the process of packing up right now. Not the compressor, but everything you see on the tables. So my little rolling table here, very convenient. And of course, keep my magnetic trays underneath. But yeah, that's why it takes a while for me to pack up, because I try to get it reasonably organized, because when I get home I got to put it all back in my big boxes that I've got there in my at home. So all right guys, hope everybody enjoys the rest of their afternoon or day or whatever time of day you're watching it. We'll see you later.